So I'm sitting at my laptop putting together a social media post. And because I have a marketing background, how long it might take a normal person to do a social media post and how long it takes me are very different. Now, it could also be because of perfectionist tendencies, and I should go listen to our own podcast about that. But what I noticed was I was trying to put time into growing my following and growing my business through social media, but it was soaking up so much of mine. And that's when I found out I need to let this go. And so I looked for someone to outsource to, and it has saved me so much time. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Welcome to Diary of a Worthy Pursuit,
where we help you get what you truly want in life and in business.
So outsourcing, the social media thing specifically is kind of interesting because I think here's some dorky person that put together some platform in their garage, and all of a sudden now every business owner or most business owners have to spend time putting stuff on that website.
That's fair. That's very fair. Well, I mean, you can think back to how computers started. Some dorky person built a computer in their garage, and now our lives revolve around these things, right?
Right. To the point they were easier, but now with the social media thing, there's just going to be one more platform.
Right.
And I don't know necessarily that platforms seem to go away, but it's interesting how the workload
expands.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's 50 million different ways you can grow a business, right? So we've talked about in the past how you really have to be intentional about choosing where you're spending your time. But I know that my audience is on social, and so this is an important area for me.
Right.
But it's taking up so much more time than it needs to. And it's not where my time is best spent, even if that's where my experience is. I've worked in marketing for, 20 years, and it's a situation where I know how to do the thing, but it's taking more time to do the thing because it's my own business. I found this as I'm marketing my own business that I am more particular, and that doesn't always serve me well. So I need to let go a little bit more and let someone else, because it's all going to be okay.
So it comes down to opportunity cost, I suppose, right?
Absolutely.
So what else could you be doing with that time?
Well, and what else can only I do? Right?
Oh, sure.
Not anyone, but there's a lot of other people who can do my social media. I can come up with the content, someone else can make it look beautiful, do the scheduling, do the posting for me and all that. And what kind of time can I get back that then I can repurpose and try to grow my business in a different way that no one else can do for me?
Plus, I suppose you have finite time.
Yeah.
24 hours in the day, you want to sleep some.
Yeah, right?
You're going to eat, hang out with your kids, all that jazz.
Yeah, I think people have tried, but no one has been able to buy more time or work hard enough to get more. We only all get 168 hours in a week. So we got to figure out how we can leverage it.
You had that math dialed in.
Yeah. Well, when you're optimizing time and helping people be productive, that's a number that you get cemented.
I get it. That's cool.
So social media is just one thing that you can outsource in your business, but there's a lot of other opportunities of things that you can outsource. Before we go there, maybe we should talk first, though, about how to know when you should outsource. So for me, I noticed I was spending way too much time in something that shouldn't have taken me that long. And I also think that just the overwhelm or the emotional toll that a certain task can take might be a good sign to say, I may not be the best person suited to do this for my business. How about you?
I have found that if I have something on my desk or in my email inbox that I'm just not doing, I'm avoiding it, then it's time to outsource it because I know otherwise it won't get done.
That's a great point. Extremely fair.
So it's one of those, it has to be done, right? Whether that's taxes or marketing.
Right.
Or following up with leads, something like that. Whatever it is. There are these tasks that I just I'll get to that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I should, now that I'm thinking about this, I should make a snooze rule on my email. Because I use the snooze button on email way more than I should.
Yeah.
Try to snoozing specific emails that they'll come up at certain times of day where I know on my schedule when I see that email, hey, I can take care of that. And I'll still be snooze that when it shows up again.
So what's so interesting about that is you're the kind of person that strikes me as your alarm goes off in the morning or you get up without an alarm and you just get up and go. You don't snooze, but you're snooze an email.
Yeah, I totally snooze an email. I don't use snooze on the alarm.
Right.
But I will lay in bed and think, well, what did I do last night to cause me to not
to want to
jump
lay
out
here
of bed?
longer? Yeah, absolutely. So I use this tool with my clients called the Freedom Compass. And at the bottom, it's a matrix of what are you passionate about and what are you proficient in. So those things that you're really passionate about and really proficient in, that's your desire zone. You want to spend as much of your time as you can there in your business. But The bottom, what you're not proficient in and you're not passionate about, that's the drudgery zone. So these are things, and it depends on your strengths and what you're interested in, right? But like you, for me, it's reconciling my credit cards, sitting in my taxes or my finances, right? And so I look at all these things in my drudgery zone and think, I'm not going to do that. Or I'm going to wait longer than I need to, and then I'm going to rush to do that thing, and then I'm going to have a question about that thing, but because I waited too long, now I can't get that question answered. You know how it just rolls down the hill, right?
Yeah.
So those are perfect things to outsource.
All right. I also like to look at what is making me money. So what are the things that I do that make money versus the other stuff that you have to do that don't directly make you money?
Yeah.
So whether that's taxes, or you could even argue pretty strongly that marketing doesn't directly make you money. So you hope that some of it works or something like that. But whatever, there's certain things like when you're coaching your clients, you can't really outsource that.
Right.
At least not yet, right?
Right.
So, and me dealing with my employees, currently, that's something that I have a hard time outsourcing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like, okay, these are the things that I have to do, or that I need to do.
Right.
Get to do.
That only I can do.
Yeah, that only I can do, and I can see there's a direct positive effect.
Right.
Profitable.
Absolutely. So the things that are tied to revenue, that's extremely important. That's the lifeblood, right? Yeah. So I think also then being aware of the idea of when I am trying to focus on these things and there's other things distracting me from that, that's a good opportunity to outsource.
Yeah, it's interesting, and especially with employees, you got to figure out who to hire. Because it was interesting as I'm hiring, I hired 2 employees this past week, or the course of the past 2 weeks, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I'm looking at what they do, their resume and all that kind of stuff, and interviewing them, and I'm looking for skills outside of the skills that we need for the job to see if there's other things that I could give them to do.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're going to have some downtime.
Right.
So, like, do they have a little bit of marketing? It's not make or break for the job, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're cool enough, you'll get the job. But it's one of those, like, who could I send video editing to, or marketing to, or someone that's going to be consistent, but I already have them on payroll, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, leveraging people's strengths outside of their job description, I think. And it's a great opportunity for people to grow in that scenario.
Yeah.
You know, I think the other interesting thing when we think about, well, I want to outsource that thing, but if I don't like it, someone else won't like it, so I'm going to be sending them something they hate. When it's actually the opposite. There are people who love doing taxes. You know, it's what they do every day. They enjoy that, and they would hate going to network or recording a podcast or doing marketing, right? So I think
I can't even imagine that person. Who would love.
But thank God we have them, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to remember that what I don't like to do, there is someone else who likes to do it, because then it lifts that weight of, well, I'm going to be a burden on someone else to, no, I'm giving this to someone else. That's their strength. That's what they enjoy. And I'll probably end up paying them for the thing.
Yeah.
So.
You know, this reminds me, we just had a logo redesigned for vet receptionists.
Okay.
Because they're going to a big trade show, whatever. And the logo that we had, an employee put together, and it was okay. But it always bugged me. And I knew since we're going to this trade show, we're spending a lot of money to be at this trade show. And employees are asking for swag, hats, shirts, all that jazz. We need a big banner at the trade show.
Yeah.
So all I could think is, I don't want to put this dopey logo on all this stuff.
Yeah.
So let's get this changed. I went to school for graphic design, but I didn't want to take the time to design a logo. So I found someone, outsourced it to them in 3-4 days.
Yeah.
We had a logo dialed in. I'm like, oh, good. It's fantastic.
Right. So another opportunity where you could have done the thing,
Totally
but
could
that
have.
was not the thing that was tied to revenue, or wasn't a thing that someone else couldn't do.
I knew, or I figured, I guess what would happen is, I would say, I can totally do this. And then time would go by, and I'd be like, oh, I should get to that. I should get to that. I should get to that.
Right.
And then it's 2 hours before the trade show, and I got to put together a logo and then get stuff printed. It's not going to happen. I guess we're using the old logo. Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So it's one of those, outsource it to make sure it gets done.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So in addition to maybe the things that you could do, but you're not making time to do, another good leverage point, I guess, is just looking at what are you staying up late to do that you shouldn't. You know, we all should have some boundaries. We all should have some balance between work and life. So what are those things, again, that you're putting off? Or where are you stretching your margins because you're doing the thing. So that's another red flag to say, I really need to outsource to somebody.
I feel like you raise a good point about the stuff that's got to get done. And I know I find this with people that are interested in getting calls on call or other outsourced stuff. They look at the cost without the benefit.
Tell me more.
So they treat it as an expense
Yeah.
instead of an investment. So we charge whatever. And they say like, oh my gosh, now I got another bill every single month, right? Like I got my cable bill, my cell phone bill, my water bill, my light bill, all the jazz. Here's one more bill.
Yeah.
That won't get any direct return.
Right.
And I think, or try to talk them into essentially, you could not pay your water bill, could not pay your electric bill, and you have a bad day, at least a very dark day.
Yeah, right.
Right? So this is one of those things that you're going to pay for, and you're going to be happy that you pay for that. Just like there's some employees that I'm very happy to pay them because I know stuff is getting done.
Yeah.
So with call answering or somebody doing your marketing or something where you get to the point where you understand that I'm paying that, whatever, let's just say I'm paying $1, and in exchange, I'm getting $1.50 or $3 or something like that.
Right.
You're getting a return on it.
Right. So not only the return, but also what's the cost of you not doing the thing.
Totally,
So
at all.
one of the best exercises I feel like I went to this retreat at the end of April. And I'm a solopreneur. I'm trying to grow my business by myself. And this coach took us through this thing of, okay, what is your time worth? Put that here. For easy math, let's call it $100. Let's say your time's worth $100 an hour. Great. And this project that you're putting off, how long do you think that's taking you? So I don't know, let's say it's my taxes and it's taking me 4 or 5 hours, whatever the thing is, because I got to research this, research that, pull all the numbers, whatever, 4 to 5 hours. All right, that cost me $400 to $500. At the end of the day, might have it done, might come up with more questions, but you know, it's probably done shoddy at best. Okay, now what would it cost me to outsource doing my taxes to someone who's actually qualified, could probably do it in an hour rather than my 4 to 5 hours. And if it's a wash, then give it to the person who's more qualified to do the thing, and the end product will be better. But maybe it's cheaper. You know, maybe they only charge $250 an hour, and they can do your taxes in an hour, and it took me 4 to 5, so it's going to cost me $500 to do my taxes, but it's going to cost me $250 if I have someone else do my taxes.
Right.
So when you think about it in that way, it's really an opportunity cost situation that I don't think people realize how much money they're sinking into doing the thing by themselves.
Yeah, totally agree. Plus we add in the aspirin, the headache. Right? So you got your hourly plus this is going to be huge pain.
Yes.
You're going to be grouchy. You're going to hate the world. Every time you hit a pothole, you're going to think, oh my God, right? Taxes, whatever.
Oh, the emotional toll of it all.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's hard to calculate, right?
Sure. So at least double your hourly.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, so we've talked about some things you can outsource. I'm sorry, we've talked about when to know you can outsource. We've also mentioned a few things that you could, but so social media is one. Marketing is another. You mentioned briefly calls. Tell us a little bit more about the sorts of things people are outsourcing to you for.
Sure. So with calls on call, they're outsourcing most of their calls. Some clients outsource their overflow calls. So they have crew already that answers phones. Some of that crew is not going to be there all the time, or they'll have multiple calls coming in. So then they just have the calls go to us. So we take care of the caller, schedule the caller, answer the questions for the caller. We get trained by the client to take care of all that.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the caller doesn't know that we are outsourced. The caller, the whole idea is to keep the illusion that the caller believes that we, whoever is answering the phone, is in the office of that client.
Yeah, so they're outsourcing their phones. So either they're getting so many phone calls, they don't want to hire another employee, so they're saving money in that way, but they're also outsourcing scheduling.
Right.
To you
Money and
guys.
headache.
Right, and money and headache, which is another huge thing.
Employees come with a little bit.
Yeah, minor detail. But you know, especially when you get a bigger team and then you're managing a bigger team, like I'm beyond having one receptionist, you know, if you really need 2 or 3 to handle your volume, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I really love this idea of outsourcing your scheduling because I think it's highly underrated. So before I was a productivity coach and I was just handling my schedule willy-nilly and putting whatever I had here, whatever I had time for, I called it time confetti. Oh, you want an email or a meeting with me? Cool, I'll pop that here. Oh, and you want 15 minutes here? Great. And I'd have all these little pieces on my calendar and then like 15 minutes in between where I can't get anything done in those little areas. So what I love about scheduling is that then you can be like, okay, you're going to answer my calls. You're going to schedule for me anytime I'm going to go out and do a prospect estimate or something. If I'm a roofer, I got to go out and do a quote. I'm only going to take those calls on Monday and Tuesday afternoons. And then I can say, okay, then I know Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoons I can reserve for actually writing out the estimates and getting them back to clients or whatever the thing is, right? So I may not be good at holding that boundary for myself, but you are, because that's the instruction that I've given you. So this whole idea of outsourcing scheduling, I think gives people more freedom than they realize, though it's something that's kind of hard to let go of.
Yeah, totally. It's very interesting. When we take on a client, we essentially have to create a system.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they don't have a documented system. So it's like starting a restaurant and trying to teach your employees how to make a cheeseburger. And like, how do you want us to make a cheeseburger, right? You're just like, whatever, right? Some kid's going to make a buffalo burger, right? So we try to pull out of their brain how they want stuff done.
Yeah.
And over the course of time, that evolves.
Sure.
Because they'll come up with the ground rules that the client, will come up with the ground rules that they think are in their head. And then after we schedule with those rules, they're like, wait, my Thursday's empty. And you say, you told us not to schedule anything Thursdays because you got your kid or whatever. I only have my kid until 10 in the morning or whatever. Or I go golfing at 3 p.m. every Wednesday or something like that. So work around that. They give us whatever the ground rules are, and we're very good at following them.
Right.
Where they, a lot of times, aren't. Because people want to err on the side of yes.
Right.
So if one of their customers calls and says, hey, can you do this Thursday? And they're scheduled to golf, they'll be like, sure.
Right.
But we don't know.
You hold the boundary.
We hold the boundary.
Yeah. That's
so it's
so helpful.
Yeah, I always, I want to say joke, but that's not correct. I tell my crew we are outsourced, which means that we have to be better than if they did it themselves. So I think about if I fix, let's just say, I do some plumbing repair in my house, right? Fix a leaky sink. And now it's not leaking as bad. It's just got to drip an hour. Stick a towel under it. We're all good, right? Maybe caulk that thing. We're fine.
Right.
But if a plumber was hired and the plumber's like, hey, your sink is all fixed. It's only dripping once an hour. I'd say, this sink's not fixed.
Right.
Right? You got to do it like a real plumber.
All the way, 100%.
Yeah, professional. Fix it. So we are held to a higher standard than an in-house employee would be. Because in-house employee, you're like, they messed up a little bit, not the end of the world, whatever. Because you don't want to go through the whole hiring process again. But if we mess up, holy cow, man, clients let you know.
Right. Well, and I think that's the hard part of outsourcing as an entrepreneur, right? You know the quality that you want and that you would provide your client. So this idea of systemizing the kind of service that you want to provide, I feel like is extremely important when you're outsourcing. So that's the next tip we have for you, is to provide a system through which you can offload this stuff. And maybe you do this before you actually hire the people, so you've got some time to work through it. You know, when you're operationalizing or systemizing, there's going to be a lot of iterations of that stuff. When I was leading marketing teams and we would put together standard operating procedures of like, here's how we get access to your Facebook account. Here's how we set up Google Analytics for your website. There's multiple steps in that process, and they change weekly sometimes based on the technology. So it's important to write it all down so that, you know, if this employee is out, someone else can still do it. But also to understand that, now I can tell that client that here are the exact steps we need to take, and I don't sound like I'm, just pulling it out of the cuff,
But it sounds like you would help the client figure that stuff out? Like you had a checklist to go through or something like that?
Right. So we would create the checklist and create the system so that whenever we had a new client who needed the thing, we knew the steps to walk them through.
Yeah.
But we had to create the system first and walk through it then and figure out the kinks so that the kinks didn't come through for the client.
Right. Very smart move.
So then as you looking to outsource, it's good for you to look at and say, what is the process that I would like said person to do for me, and how can I make that easier? Because then it's going to feel more like me than another company.
Right. Yeah, we have to have that. Because the majority of our clients are fairly small businesses, and they have no idea. They don't know how they do what they do. They're running by the seat of their pants. Seat of their pants are already on fire.
Right.
So it's like, hey, how do you run with your pants on fire? You just do, right?
Right.
So we have questions that we ask and all that kind of stuff that have been dialed in over the course of time to try to get that system out and get it documented. And we have had clients that have left for whatever reason. They grew, they outgrew us, whatever.
Yeah.
And they've asked for that flow.
Oh, wow.
Because they want to use that with their employees.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times they come back because that employee leaves.
Well, it's a cool compliment, though, to show that
Totally.
the system that you've created for them was working.
Yeah.
And it
And that
also
we had
shows
one.
and how important said system was to being able to do it effectively. So,
Huge deal.
right. So make sure you have a system in place.
Systematize everything.
Right.
Another thing that I found, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but I'm putting together a system for if and when I die.
Okay, that's kind of morbid, James, but
So
tell me more.
everybody dies. So it's one of those
Fair.
things where
We are all headed there.
with my business, I do a lot of stuff, but I don't do the frontline stuff. So I have crew answering the phones, all that jazz, taking care of administrative stuff. Great. Well, there's two facets to this. One is if and when I die. Two is if and when I ever want to sell my business.
Right.
These are the things that I do that either someone else will have to do, or it's also giving me a list of what I can possibly outsource
Absolutely.
and how to. So
Yeah.
I started writing this, and it's way more complicated than I thought it would be. Maybe it's just like I didn't realize all the stuff that I did, or I
Yeah.
didn't. It's one of those things where I'm flying by the seat of my pants a lot of times, and you're trying to document that. But anyways, what I wanted to avoid, the whole goal was what I wanted to avoid is if I get hit by a bus, my employees don't lose their job. Right? Business goes under because, well, where's James? We don't know the answer to this question. I'm like, I am trying to make myself not that important in the business.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Well,
anyways.
first, I think it's very humble of you to say I'm making myself not that important. But also, what I love about how insightful that is that it's not only taking care of your employees, but it's also giving you insight into, wow, all the things that I do to run a business, and what don't I need to do? That's a great opportunity.
Oh,
you know,
great.
it's almost
Yeah.
like a task filter to say, here's all the things that I do. What don't I need to do? Or what takes more time than it should? What could someone else do?
Yeah.
So systems could give you that great opportunity. That's
Oh my gosh.
amazing.
Systematize everything.
Right,
That's the rule.
exactly.
That's the rule.
Automate. All right, so the last piece of this is really just to evaluate. Like anything, you need some kind of after-action review to give you an idea of what went well, what can be better, and what do you want to start or stop doing. How do you guys do this with clients?
Oh, man. So I would say my perception or my thoughts about how the business was going to go when we first started is not exactly how it ended up going. So in our mind, we are going to create a system for the caller, or for the client. Callers are going to call in, and it reminded me of a self-defense class.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever taken a self-defense class.
I took Taekwondo as a kid, but it
All
wasn't
right.
self-defense.
So self-defense class, a lot of them that I've seen, especially with my kid,
Yeah.
his little karate class, whatever, they'll say, I guess, self-defense, right? A kid comes at you, or a person comes at you going to punch you. And then this is how you block, and this is how you counter, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I would see these classes, or see these shows, I guess they were, I don't know what they called them. And I was like, what if the person coming at you to punch you didn't take this class, so they punch you with an uppercut instead of a right hook? Right? So you're like, I didn't practice for the uppercut. So it reminds me of some of the calls that we would get. Because the client would say, these are the calls you're going to get.
Yeah.
And then we would plan for that. And then the first call we'd get is something, it was the uppercut.
Yeah.
And the agent was like, that's not a right hook. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
That's a really great analogy.
So luckily, we had smart enough agents that could roll.
Yeah.
And they understood, like, hey, this is a plumber, so therefore I know what plumbers do. I have enough life experience to just figure it out.
Right.
And we set up rules like err on the side of yes. Just say yes. If a caller asks if we can do this, say yes, because it's much easier to call back and say, funny story, we can't, but there's someone else that we know that can.
Right.
Instead of saying no, and then having them call the customer up and saying, funny story, we totally do that.
Right.
I forgot.
Yeah, fair.
So anyways, we set up those systems.
Yeah.
And I also thought, once that system was in place, we don't have to touch it ever again. Oh my gosh. every single day, I would say at least half of our clients reach out to us and say, hey, we got to tweak this.
Yeah.
We added an employee, we subtracted an employee, we added a new thing that we do, we subtracted a new thing that we do. Hey, we have this discount coming up.
Right.
This marketing, this group, this new whatever. Oh, we're trying this new process because whatever, my phone died, whatever.
Right.
Constant change.
Well, and what I love about that is that it helps train your clients to know that life is ever evolving, and so is the system, and you can bend and flex with them.
Totally. Have to.
Yeah, right, because life is that way. I think if I were starting to get inundated with all these calls or questions, I would be like, how can I build the system to build myself out of it? And I know that's what you guys do. But then there's even pieces like, there's certain marketers out there who talk about homework selling. So this idea of before you even take that first prospect call, you expect the prospect to do a little bit of homework, and then it shows how invested they are.
Right.
So the example came from a pool guy out in the Carolinas, and he's like, I would schedule these opportunities to go out and tour somebody's house and give them a quote on a pool, but I would send them a video series in advance. And I would make them agree to the fact that they were going to watch said video series, because then, one, they were more educated when we actually got to the house, but then we were able to have better conversations. I was able to give them a better quote when I got on site because they knew the questions to ask. They already had all of these like kind of elementary questions out of the way because we answered them in the video series. So what I think what's interesting about that is you can learn the elementary questions and you can answer those, but then you might say, hey, let's evolve this process so the prospects coming in are better prospects. So they're more qualified then, so that it is a better sale for me. It's a better opportunity for me as a business owner.
Interesting. I would challenge that a little bit.
Please.
And the reason that I would is because now this guy's probably super busy. There's more business than he can handle.
Yeah.
So he has the liberty of being choosy.
Fair.
But if 2008 happens or something like that, I bet he would get rid of that.
That's a great opportunity to tweak that process.
I bet he would be like, we don't have any videos, just if you have money,
we will be to your house if you have
fix
money.
That pool,
Want a pool, we're in.
Yeah. Because it's interesting how when money's flowing, people put up roadblocks. And I call that roadblock, that I don't mean to be derogatory or anything like that, because you want a smart client.
Right.
Or a smart potential client, because then you can have a conversation on the same level. But a lot of times people don't know.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be a pool expert. From my point of view, I would want to, that's why I'm hiring you.
Right. Hire the pool expert.
I just want to, when it's hot out, I want to be able to jump in the pool.
Right.
Right.
I don't care how I get there. Just give me the thing.
Yeah.
What is the famous saying by one of these marketing guys? It's, you're never buying the hammer. You're buying the hole in the wall.
Oh, not buying the drill.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, not buying the drill bit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so hopefully today we've provided you with some ideas on when you can outsource, what you can outsource, and some different systems to put in place to help you.
Yeah, how to outsource. And in the end, what do you end up with? More time, more freedom, more fun?
Hopefully, and a business that's growing.
Yeah.
And that's what we all want, right?
Doesn't matter, right? It's all good. Thank you for watching. This is Diary of a Worthy Pursuit,
where we talk about how to get what you truly want in life and in business. If you've enjoyed this, please share it with someone else you feel could benefit from it, and we'll see you next time.